never play you. No, Gloomhaven, you are too big, you are too complicated. I'm just not that into you. I will not play you. Oh. Oh, it's so small and cute. I guess it wouldn't hurt to at least open it. Too many components! Tiles, miniatures! It's just too much!
Oh, I see you met Gloomhaven.
Hey there guys, I've got Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion on the table here. And real quick, this overview video is going to be a little bit different than our normal overview videos that we do on Love to Hate. Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion is definitely the biggest, heaviest game that we've ever reviewed on our channel. And so because of that, this is not going to be a full in detail explain every rule video to you guys. This is just going to be an overview of what Gloomhaven looks like for those of you that have never experienced it before, and for those of you that have, I'm going to tell you what's different about Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion and why it may or may not be good for non-gamers. So real quick, Gloomhaven and Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, all the other Gloomhavens out there, basically is a game in which you are represented by this little miniature, one of these miniatures that you put on this map. And in Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, the map is in the booklet. You don't have tiles. And so you move around on the map trying to kill these bad guys that are represented by these standees. And the way you do that is by playing with a deck of cards. And so each round, you and everyone at the table are going to select 2 cards to play from your hand. And the cards have numbers there in the middle. As you can see, the one on the left says 83 and the one on the right says 67. And I would pick one of these 2 to be my lead initiative card. So in this case, I would maybe choose 67. And I would have that one face down so that when I turn my cards over after everyone's picked their 2 cards that they're going to play, I would show at the table that my initiative is 67. And so we would determine who has the lowest number, and that person would get to go first, and they would take their little token here. This is new in Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. And they would put it on the top of the initiative order, and then the next person would go underneath them, and so on and so forth. And you would also flip over a card for one of the bad guys. The bad guys have a deck of cards for each type of bad guy, and in scenario 2 here, we're set up for a hole in the wall. The bad guys are these Vermling Raiders, and so they would get a deck of cards. They would also get a stat card that you would put in one of these sleeves here. And we are playing against the level 1 Vermling Raiders, and they have a health of 5, a movement of 1, and an attack of 2. And on the left side, that represents your basic Vermling Raider, and on the right side, the golden side, is your elites, which are distinguished by the yellow standee base as compared to the white standee base. And so anyway, you would also flip over a card for the bad guys, and in this case, their initiative would be 20. And so if my initiative was 67 and they are 20, they would go ahead of me. They would get to act first. And so that's how you determine turn order in this game. And then you basically follow the directions on the card for the bad guys. And so in this one, it would tell me that they're going to attack at a range of 4, and we're not adding anything special to their attack. And they would get to do this little bottom description too. And so we come back here to their stat card, and it says that they attack for 2. We're not adding anything to it like the card said. And then to determine the final attack value, you flip over one of these attack modifier cards from their attack modifier deck. In this case, it's -2. So their attack value was 2, and so we are subtracting 2, which is 0. So I lucked out there. I did not take any damage. Now, for all of the players at the table, how they do their turns, like I said, they have 2 cards. And on one card, you're going to play the top action, and on the other card, you're going to play the bottom action. And you can do those first or second. You can do the bottom action first, the top action second, or vice versa, doesn't matter. And generally speaking, the top action of cards are going to do some sort of attack, while the bottom action of the cards are going to do some kind of movement. Now, these are not necessarily good examples of such because the Void Warden does lots of weird things, but essentially that's the case. Top action's going to let me do an attack, and the bottom action lets me move. Now, on all the cards, there are these little basic actions. So I can do a basic attack of 2, disregarding whatever the attack is up here. Or I could do a basic movement of 2, again, disregarding anything that's printed on the cards here. Now, as you guys can see, these cards have lots of words on them. And so one thing that I'm going to tell you when playing with non-gamers is that be mindful of that if you go straight into Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion and forego the training scenarios, which you would never really do, you're going to start this on scenario 1. But just be mindful that there are a lot of words on here, and non-gamers can get very intimidated by that because, as you guys can see, there's lots of cards in your hand, and there's just lots to read and to digest as far as what am I going to do on my turn. And so the good thing about Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion is that to start off, you get some very basic cards that don't have a lot of things on them that tell you exactly what each card does. And let me show that to you guys real quick. So here we have 2 of those cards that you play the first couple of scenarios with. And in these blue boxes here, it tells you exactly what each of these cards do, the different wording on it, what they mean, and it's pretty easy to understand how these cards work. Now, again, it's still a lot of reading, and so that still can be kind of intimidating for non-gamers that have never played games like this before. So just keep that in mind. So that is how you basically do a turn. The way the game kind of plays against you, in addition to the bad guys attacking you and hopefully you not dying by your health getting down to 0, because if that ever happens, then you become exhausted, and if everybody at the table is exhausted, then you lose the game. That is not good. But the other way that the game plays against you is at the end of every time that you've played all your cards and you discard them over here on the left side of your player board, you either have to choose to do a short rest or a long rest. I'm not going to explain the differences between the two, but basically what happens is you lose one of your cards and they come over here to the right side of your player board and it is now lost. You've lost that card, you don't get it for the rest of the scenario. And every time you go through all your cards and they end up over here on the discard, you're going to lose another card, and so on and so forth. And eventually, as the campaign progresses, hopefully you've won by now, but if you haven't, you're going to be so depleted that you're not going to have enough cards to play around. And when that happens, your character becomes exhausted and you would take them off the map. And if everybody becomes exhausted, then you as a team lose that scenario. This is a campaign. Gloomhaven is a campaign, and so you progress through the scenarios in a certain order, and it tells you a story. And so you want to win to progress that story, and if you don't win, then you start that scenario over again. Every player is dealt a secret objective card that gives them some sort of objective to accomplish that no one else knows about. And so there is a little bit of game is cooperative, but there is a little bit of personal goals trying to achieve that makes it not so cooperative, I suppose. But if you achieve that, you get a check mark, and for those of you who know Gloomhaven, you keep track of those check marks that give you perks to be able to improve your attack modifier deck here, get rid of bad cards, replacing them with good cards. Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion does come with unlockable content that you achieve as you level up your character with your experience points that you gain throughout the campaign. And just like in regular Gloomhaven, there are new characters that you can unlock here, the ones with the seals. And so that is something very cool. A difference between regular Gloomhaven and Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion is the insert here that keeps track of the cards, available items and unavailable items on the back side here You can put your attack modifier deck here and your blessing and curse cards there. There are your personal goals that you're trying to achieve. And then there are city events still in Gloomhaven. No longer are there the journey events, or the road events, excuse me. But there are the city events that you do after every event. And essentially, if you're not familiar with that, it tells you a little story, and it gives you a choice to choose, option A or option B. And then you choose as a team, and you flip the card over, and option A tells you what happens if you picked it, and option B tells you something different. And so you keep your new ones on this side and your used ones on the back side here. And those are pretty much the differences between Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, and regular Gloomhaven. You do get a tray to keep your components in. That's very nice. It makes setup very easy. That is one of the pros about this. Again, the tiles are gone. Everything's done in a book now. You do still have a board that is a lot smaller. And stickers, there are stickers. There is still some legacy aspect to it. Lots of rule books, lots of rules. Again, keep that in mind when explaining this to non-gamers. You only want to go over what they need to know. You don't have to go over everything. There are lots of items, lots of choices to consider, all things that can leave your non-gamer friends feeling overwhelmed. But the very good thing about this is that there's lots of instructional help on teaching this game. Everything that's in a blue box explains to you guys what to do and how to explain it, and to ease in your non-gamer friends into playing a game like Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. And there you guys go. Hope that was helpful. Let's get to our thoughts on the game. All right, so here's Sam and I playing one of the scenarios. And if you guys want to check out any of our playthrough videos, we did playthrough videos of the first 3 scenarios. You can click that eye in the top right corner. Just as a caution, there are some spoilers, so if you don't want to have anything spoiled, don't click that eye. But if you don't mind, go ahead and click it. All right, so Sam, go ahead and share your thoughts. You've got a lot to say on Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, so I'll let you go first.
I wouldn't say I have a lot to say, but I do think that anybody that's coming to our channel would be more intrigued to see my opinion on this than yours, since I am a non-gamer by trade, and I was forced to play this game.
Forced? Oh, come on. You wanted to play it.
If we did not have a channel, I probably would have never played it.
So is that to say you did not enjoy Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion?
It's definitely not a game for a non-gamer, and I think anyone coming here expecting us to say, hey, the non-gamer loved it, is a little bit misled with the type of game this is. It just is not for non-gamers. It's not a game to start with, for sure. But, I mean, it was different. I've never played a campaign game before. I've never played... an
RPG game?
Yeah. So it's just very different. It's hard for me to really get into the game as a non-gamer. I don't see the appeal to pretending you're the characters or anything like that. But it was interesting. It was not as difficult as I thought it would be. It still did not entice me as much as some other games that we may have played, but I honestly expected it to be quite a bit harder.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a simplistic rule set. I mean, the whole mechanic of playing 2 cards, 1 top action, 1 bottom action, losing those cards as the game progresses, as a kind of a hurry up and finish the mission, that's a very simple idea. But I think what maybe you're saying there is you just aren't enticed or drawn in by the idea of being a character that you connect with and you grow to know and love. And
I mean, I will say, after we did play 4 scenarios, we only recorded the first 3, but by the 4th time I knew what my character was capable of, but I still didn't have any type of connection to her. And the cards were a little bit confusing. It did take quite a while to figure out, you have all these cards, they have all these words on them. You have to pick a top action and a bottom action, and just figuring out what's going to be right. I did feel like I was just kind of winging it every time.
So let me ask you this then. What would you say out there to all the gamers who have this on their shelf or thinking about going to get it, and are deciding whether or not they should try it out with their non-gamer friends, what is some advice that you would maybe give to them?
Don't do it.
No,
I'm just
come on.
kidding. I think you just need to go into it ready to communicate, ready to embrace your non-gamer friend, and realize that this isn't going to be something where you take a turn and they take a turn. There has to be communication. There needs to be, help along the way. You need to go into it lightheartedly, not,
Yeah, I think
ready to win, ready to conquer.
I think you're speaking truth there, because as a gamer, when you go to the table with a game like Gloomhaven, you almost get into this mindset of, all right, we're going to be sitting here for a few hours and we're going to war. And I mean, as a gamer, you really get drawn in with a game like this, and you just can't really do that with a non-gamer, or you can't have that expectation, right?
I do appreciate with this Jaws of the Lion that each scenario did get more difficult. So it started you out very basic. The first three, the ones that we recorded, were all pretty decent. I will say we ended up not recording the fourth one because I was losing interest quickly.
Yeah, it didn't go well out there for you guys. And so that being said, I think this is hit or miss. And I know that's not very helpful to a lot of you out there, but what I will say is this: go into it with the mindset that this will work with some of your friends that don't play games, and this won't work with some of your friends who don't play games. And so I can't recommend buying this solely on the idea of, hey, I've got some friends that sort of play games, and maybe this is a way to get them into Gloomhaven. I would buy this more on the mindset of, I really enjoy Gloomhaven, and I would play this even if no one else played it with me, or I would play it only with my friends who play Gloomhaven, and I might try it out with some of my friends who don't play Gloomhaven to see if they would like it. This is that kind of game. This is not a gateway game, so to speak.
No, you got to be way into that gate.
Yeah, right. Now, I will say for you guys out there that this version of Gloomhaven is by far the easiest to set up, easiest to tear down. There's so much time saved by playing this, and so because of that, I give this game excellent reviews. I give it a 9. Sam, what would you say?
I don't even know if my review will be worth anything. I'd probably give it maybe a 6, just because it is a little complicated, but again, not as complicated as I was expecting. But guys, just take that with a grain of salt. This is coming from someone who really was reluctant to play it.
One other thing I will mention too is the price point on this is a lot. It's more gentle than regular Gloomhaven, and so that's a good thing too. All right, if you liked this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Check out our other content. This has been Love to Hate.